Welcome to all of you at home. Certainly, this is a unique format for the 2020 Ouimet Fund annual banquet, but we are in unique and challenging times. Typically, this is the largest in-person golf dinner in the country each year. With all of you at home and practicing safe social distancing, it'll perhaps break a record in a way, with a special opportunity for many more of you all across the country to join us tonight from your living rooms. As you saw in that introduction, there is a storied history to this event, supporting the 71-year legacy of Francis Ouimet. Mr. Ouimet impacted all of us and the game of golf over 100 years ago with his incredible U.S. Open victory at the Country Club, alongside his 10-year-old caddy, Eddie Lowry. Golf in America was changed forever. Tonight, we celebrate the career and impact on golf of another World Golf Hall of Fame member and tonight's Ouimet Award honoree, Tom Kite. Hey, Tom, that was a pretty special group to be a part of looking at that opening video, wasn't it?
Holy smokes. I mean, that's like who's who of golf. It's just an unbelievable list. And all those recipients have been so deserving, and it's kind of hard for me to believe that I'm going to be adding my name to the list of the Francis Ouimet recipients. But I'm very humbled, very proud at being able to put my name on the list next to those people.
You bet, Tom. We are in different locations this evening, and we would certainly like to thank you for your flexibility in this online format. And I know our representatives from the Ouimet Fund would say the exact same thing. With us tonight, we have the fund's executive director, Colin McGuire, also the president of the Ouimet Scholarship Fund, Jim Moriarty, and the presenting sponsor and trustee, Dick Connolly. And one thing that I know is important to each of them, and they're very proud of, each of these three gentlemen are former Ouimet Scholarship recipients themselves. Good evening to each of you.
Thank you, Dave. And a special thanks to Tom Kite, first for accepting our invitation to speak at our annual dinner, and then for being so gracious and accommodating when the coronavirus changed our plans. And thank you, Dave, for agreeing to be our MC and rolling with the punches. We appreciate the flexibility of you both. We want to be sure to thank our amazing sponsors for ensuring this banquet becomes a reality. Each year, our major sponsors are led by Dickie Conley and the Conley Group, Mac Braun and the Andover Companies, and so many gold, silver, and bronze sponsors, which are listed in our virtual program book. They, along with our loyal bag tag clubs, were great in showing their support to our scholars. Greg Galius and our banquet committee did a great job selling out the room, and we hope to make a few new friends tonight as well.
You bet. Tom Kite's a great friend, and I know a bunch of new viewers are going to love what we do here tonight. I think everyone understands the challenges, and it was great that we had this as an option for us. Colin, if I can go to you as the fund's executive director, this is typically your kickoff. Maybe touch a little bit on what this event means to the mission.
Thanks, Dave. Absolutely. The dinner had been sold out for weeks in advance before the coronavirus, and now we have a new opportunity with even more at home watching. So many friends had stuck with us when we made the decision with Tom to move online. Jim had mentioned our many sponsors and longtime bag tag clubs. It was special to see, knowing that the scholars still counted on the support of this event, this kickoff, and really all our programs throughout the year. Every fall, 450 young men and women will be Ouimet scholars. So tonight, this is meaningful tuition assistance for them, and our graduates are going to go on to great success in the community. So at the end of the day, we all love the game of golf. All of us understand the value of education, and our donors are eager to give young people a leg up when they need it.
Boy, I'm absolutely familiar with that. I'm sure many are. But for those who don't know, Colin, who's a typical Ouimet scholar?
Well, there's no one mold per se. They all certainly have their own unique story. But Ouimet scholars can be caddies, a pro shop or bagroom worker, greens crew worker, or drive the beverage cart, anything related to golf operations. But they all have 2 years of golf employment They do well in school and exhibit a strong work ethic. So, and then award amounts are determined by each family's financial need. We say those who need it most receive the most. And actually 50% of the financial need of the Ouimet scholars was met this school year. So that's $2.5 million in awards from our donors. And for this fall, we're still assessing what that picture might look like, considering what's gone on nationally over the past 2 or 3 months.
Well, it certainly is a tough time right now for these kids.
You bet. Obviously, public safety is priority number one. And even with Golf Open, the effects of the crisis do impact it. You can't help but think that typical summer golf jobs, some of the best jobs for teenagers in America, are really in limbo. And then the unemployment figures, it's hitting many local families in all industries just trying to afford college for their kids. And these students are working so hard, and we're so thankful from our longtime friends and for our new friends who get involved tonight. It'll all lessen the financial strain on them come September. So, like I said, we'll make adjustments, but regardless, we're committed to helping them as always.
Colin, from what I've heard over the years from you and others at the fund, alumni and the current scholars are connected and will remain connected.
Right. Every scholar who graduates becomes an alum, and alumni go on to be great champions for us. They set donation records every year to fund scholarships. Some join our board of directors, start caddy programs. They chair Ouimet efforts like the career fair, senior class mentoring. It's really a wonderful cycle of giving back to the current scholars. Dave, I've hit all the headlines, but honestly, my words aren't going to compare to our audience hearing from one of the students directly that they're supporting. And that's been a fun tradition, really. So tonight, Jerome Sullivan, a junior at Providence College who worked at Marshfield Country Club, recorded his talk to represent all the scholars. So if we can roll that tape, I think it will resonate with the folks watching.
I have been a caddy since I was 10 years old. I was supposed to be 12, but I lied, and it has shaped my life for the better. Growing up, our father was no longer in our life. My mother had to raise 7 kids on her own as we were living paycheck to paycheck. We were lucky enough to live across the street from the beautiful Marshfield Country Club, where my uncles had grown up as caddies, and they started a family tradition that has lasted over 45 years. One story my Uncle Mike told us was of him throwing out golf balls into storm drains as he passed them because the bag was too heavy. Growing up and hearing those stories made me want to be a caddy too. So one day, my brother Paul and I walked across the street to join that year's caddy school program. When they asked my brother how old he was, he replied, "I'm 12. And they looked at me and I responded, "We're twins." And nobody batted an eye. It also felt great to help my mother with gas, groceries, and my clothes for school. And the first time I treated everyone to Dairy Queen was something I'll always remember. We loved working at Marshfield Country Club and has shaped who I am today. I remember when Bill Hanlon had asked me to carry his bag on a tournament weekend. This gave me a great sense of pride and helped build up my confidence. From there, we created a great relationship as I continued to caddy for him on many more tournament weekends. And it was Bill who was the one who introduced me to the Francis Ouimet Scholarship Fund, which made my dream a reality. My dream had started when my older sister Jane brought me to the Providence College campus when I was only 8 years old. From there, it was my dream to go to Providence College. Even though 4 of us would be at school at once my freshman year, my mother never let finances discourage us from our goals. Being a caddy and getting involved with Ouimet funds and the scholarships I've received because of these donations has made my dream a reality. You made that happen. Thank you. I've been a caddy since I was 10 years old, but the lessons that I've learned will be with me for the rest of my life. I am Jerome Sullivan, and I am a proud Ouimet scholar. Thank you.
Wow, and we are proud of Jerome. Guys, I think we can already see the return on investment, if you will, with someone like Jerome, keeping that family tradition alive.
Thank you for saying that, Dave. We are so proud of all of our students. Great job, Jerome. I'm proud to be an alum and proud to be part of this program tonight, honoring Tom Kite, which will benefit those students who so need our help this year.
Jim, that is great. And I certainly hope that the folks who haven't had a chance, those at home, can make a pledge online tonight and join you. Now, Jim, if I can ask you, as president, why is this organization so special? And what does your affiliation mean to you?
I started attending these dinners back in the 1970s when I was a student at UMass Amherst. Back then, the dinners were mainly the students and a few supporting clubs. Since 1997, this dinner has grown to become one of the top golf dinners in the country, highlighted always by our keynote speaker. It has grown to be a major fundraiser for the Francis Ouimet. We, the board, could not do what we do without your support. Many in the audience have sponsored the golf marathon, attended the dinner in the past, bought a bag tag, joined us as a lifetime member, or set up an endowed scholarship for a loved one. Because of that support, we were able to help over 400 kids attend college this year. We thank our supporting golf and country clubs across the state, not only for their sponsorship of this year's banquet and other programs, namely the bag tag, but for their enthusiasm for bringing these outstanding young people to work at their courses and set them up for success at a young age.
And Jim, I know you really wanted to share how two of your sponsors are connected tonight.
Yes. So earlier I referenced some of the key sponsors. And one part of the program every year is to recognize someone locally who's made a difference in the Ouimet Fund and the community by awarding the Richard F. Conley Jr. Award. This year's recipient, Mac Braun of the Andover Companies, is a true supporter, not only to the Francis Ouimet Fund, but a true supporter of caddies and the game of golf. He believes you get to know a lot about a person after playing a round of golf with them. I've had the pleasure of caddying for Mac, and I can attest you he is a true gentleman and always treated the caddies great. We look forward to celebrating him more later this fall. Congratulations, Mac. This award is named after a gentleman who embodies the true spirit of Francis Ouimet. To my knowledge, he has never said no to any charity. We've had the honor and pleasure to have Dick and his wife, Anne-Marie, in our corner for decades, and has done so much for the Ouimet in this event. In the Francis Ouimet community, he is our MVP, Mr. Dickie Conley.
Thanks, Jim. Thanks for those kind words. It's been my pleasure and honor to be part of the Ouimet family for so many years. Our honoree tonight, Jerome and his family, we couldn't be more proud of them. And Jerome is clearly one of our best and a great representative of the Ouimet organization. We have a motto with the Ouimet Fund that says, "What golf has given to you, give something back to golf." And I think that's a model we all could live by in almost anything in life. It also should be noted that 92% of our scholars graduate from college in 4 years. That's an incredible accomplishment, and we're so proud of that.
Absolutely. Dick, you grew up caddying as well. That parallel must have really brought a smile to your face when you were listening to Jerome.
Certainly did, David. And again, that was a great and happy time in my life. I started as an 8-year-old caddying at Woburn Country Club, a public golf course in Woburn, Massachusetts. And the people that I caddied for were from the greatest generation, the World War II people. And caddying was nothing more than an extension of the value system that my mother and father gave to me growing up. My mother was one of 10, the only girl in a family of brothers, that all of which were terrific golfers. Every one of them had a handicap of 5 or less, and 2 of them were state class and national class amateur champions. So that was a big, very, very important to me. My father and my uncles taught me the game of golf and how you conduct yourself. Really, they taught me by example. And I've said many times, the best experience that I've had in life was growing up as a caddy. Now, some people that have never had the experience of caddying would probably say, what's he talking about? That's when he was a young guy and he hasn't had any more experiences that were valuable than that. And the truth is, I've had a lot of great experiences, but as a young boy, being exposed to these people and learning that about a work ethic, about manners, about being polite, about showing up in time for work, that type of thing, never left me, and I live by that to this day.
You know, Dick, this event and the Francis Ouimet Award has become an incredible honor for many over the years, and I know it's something that you all at the fund are proud of, ever since your dear friend was the first honoree.
Yeah, Arnold was first honoree, and once he agreed to be our honoree, anybody we asked was thrilled to be asked, because anything that Arnold Palmer did, they wanted to be part of. So the people that we've had as honorees other than Arnold were a number of people like President Bush, George H.W. Bush, Jack Nicklaus, Chichi Rodriguez, Gary Player, Tom Watson, as you can see. And the thing I always say is that here's a little caddy fund up in Massachusetts, and our list of honorees is second to none. Now Arnold, as far as I should mention, that no one's ever had better press than Arnold Palmer. And he's not as good as his press. He's better. He's a magnificent person. I think that the three most important people in the history of golf in this country, Francis Ouimet, Bobby Jones, and Arnold Palmer, and I don't even think that's debatable. Arnold grew up in real tough times, depression times. His hero were his own mother and father, and that's the value system that he carried forward. And I think one of the reasons that we hit it off so well once we met, he's been a close friend and a client of mine. He was for 38 years. And it was a great thrill. It just tells you how great this country is. Growing up as a caddy, if anybody told me that I would even get to meet Arnold Palmer, let become such a close friend, I would have told them they weren't thinking straight. So anyways, it's a great thrill to have him as a close friend and have his as our initial honoree. He also, by the way, came back in 2013 for the 100th anniversary of Francis winning the U.S. Open at Brookline. David, I want to tell a story about your dad and Arnold at the 1964 Masters. As obviously as you know, your father and Arnold were best friends, very, very close. And your father was paired with Arnold on the final round of the Masters in '64, and they're coming up the 18th hole, and Arnold's leading by 8 shots. And your dad was fighting for second place, trying to beat out Jack Nicklaus. And Arnold, I emphasize again, he was leading by 8 shots. Arnold said to Dave, "Is anything I can do to help you?" And your dad said, "Yeah, Arnold, make an 8." I thought that was one of the great lines ever.
I'm sure you and Arnold talked about Tom Kite over the years.
David, you're right. We've spoken about it many times because Tom played in Arnold's tournament at Bay Hill most of his career as a professional. And then when Arnold was playing in the seniors tournament up here in Concord, Massachusetts, at the Nashotah Golf Club, Tom played in it many times as a senior player. So, you know, and I met Tom a number of times because I was so close with Arnold, and I was at Arnold's tournament in Orlando every year, and Arnold stayed with us when he was playing in the seniors tournament. So I saw a lot of Tom Kite because of that. And Arnold had incredible respect for Tom Kite, big part because of his work ethic. Arnold always said that the 3 hardest workers that he can recall in the game of golf were Gary Player, Ben Hogan, and Tom Kite. And that's a tremendous, tremendous compliment about Tom Kite. The other thing Arnold mentioned too was what a great wife Tom Kite had. Christy was his biggest supporter and biggest fan, and he was very, very lucky to have her as his life mate. I want to mention this too, David. Tom Ridge, who's a very close friend, was deathly ill, near death actually, in a Texas hospital. And of course, Tom Kite lives in Texas. And when Tom Kite heard about it, he almost beat the doors down to get into the hospital to say hello to Tom Ridge and give him his support. And Tom Ridge never got over that. And since then now, Tom Ridge and Tom Kite have become close friends. That kind of tells you about what Tom Kite's all about. I remember watching Tom, AKA Mr. Consistency, win the 92 U.S. Open at Pebble Beach, many Ryder Cup appearances, always conducting himself as a gentleman. I am proud to add Tom to our wonderful list of honorees. We've got a special video on Tom, so if you can please roll the tape, I'm sure you're going to enjoy it.
On a blustery Sunday in June of 1992, Tom Kite arrived at famed Pebble Beach, focused on the task at hand, winning a major championship. However, one thing he hadn't planned on was leaving his trusty lob wedge at home. In a fitting act on Father's Day, Tom Sr. was able to deliver his son's wedge prior to his tee time. A favorite club of Tom's throughout his career, it came in handy for a memorable pitch in the rough near the 7th green.
Hit it! Hit it! Yeah!
Tom would go on to win that U.S. Open while enduring the brutal conditions at Pebble. He would later say, if you were to win a major championship, it would be the U.S. Open. And if you had to pick a golf course to win it, Pebble Beach is not a bad place. Long before he was raising the U.S. Open trophy on the 18th green at Pebble Beach, Tom Kite was a young man from McKinney, Texas, born to avid golfers Tom Sr. and Maureen Kite in 1949. When his family was relocated to Austin, Texas, Tom began playing golf at Austin Country Club, where he became a star pupil of the legendary golf coach Harvey Penick. Penick could see from a very young age that Tom had a special combination of natural skill and internal competitive drive. Tom went on to play for the University of Texas from 1969 to 1972. As an All-American, he racked up 9 collegiate tournament wins. The Texas golf team at the time was a force, as Tom was teammates with fellow Ouimet Award honoree Ben Crenshaw. Together, the two led their team to back-to-back national championships in 1971 and 1972. Tom didn't waste any time making his mark after turning pro, finishing his inaugural season as Rookie of the Year. Throughout the 70s and 80s, Tom earned what would become his nickname, Mr. Consistency. For 7 straight years, he was the only player on tour to win an event in each season. In 1989, he was again the leading money winner, highlighted by a memorable win at the Players' Championship. Tom also became a stalwart on the U.S. Ryder Cup team, winning 5 times from 1979 to 1993. Soon after his Ryder Cup playing days were over, Tom received one of the ultimate honors in golf and was named U.S. captain of the 1997 team. While they were bested by a narrow margin, team members spoke glowingly of Tom's captaincy. His on-course success aligned with many of his personal milestones off the course. In 1975, Tom met his wife, Christy, and they were married later that year. The couple welcomed 3 children during the 1980s, Stephanie, David, and Paul. Sadly, Christy, his loving and supportive wife of 40 years, passed away in 2015 after a battle with cancer. An accomplished college golfer herself, she is remembered as a dedicated and loving mother and grandmother, and as critical a partner to Tom's on-course success as any other factor in his life. Tom is a proud father and grandfather who deeply enjoys spending time with his growing family whenever possible. Along with that, he added golf course designer to his resume and perhaps most famously designed Liberty National Golf Club. He is a dedicated Longhorn alum and an active ambassador of the First Tee program across the country, among other initiatives. Tom's legacy in the game of golf is undeniable, and fittingly, he was inducted into the World Golf Hall of Fame in 2004, with an introduction from his lifelong friend, teammate, and rival, Ben Crenshaw. Ladies and gentlemen, the 2020 Ouimet Annual Banquet honoree and the recipient of the 2020 Francis Ouimet Award for lifelong contributions to golf, Mr. Tom Kite.
What a great video, and I love every single time I see celebrations of Tom Kite, I always have to smile because, Tom, you know, you're humble about what you've given to the game. I know you're appreciative about what the game has given to you, but there's so much that you've done, from the work ethic to the amount of time you're out there playing to the amount of time you give to other people. It just maybe hasn't gotten the publicity because you don't publicize it yourself. Now, finally, this lifelong contribution to the game of golf. The young kid from Austin ending up getting his name on an award with Francis Ouimet. To me, all the people that have been on the award deserve to be there, but you are extra special in that regard. What does it mean to you, coming from where you came to now being recognized with this great honor?
Well, Dave, honest, you know, all the wonderful awards that I had fortunate enough to get through the years have, you know, I still kind of pinch myself and think there's no way that this is really happening. You know, I think back to, you know, growing up here in Austin, Texas, and fortunately taking lessons from Harvey Phoenix and having, you know, the opportunity to play golf with mom and dad and the opportunities that they gave me. But still, it's, you know, it's just hard for me to comprehend this. I mean, you know, the list of those names that are on the recipients of the Francis Ouimet Award, I mean, those are heroes of mine. And, you know, it's just hard for me to believe that I'm even here in the same room with them.
But Tom, you took an impressive amount of skill, but an enormous work ethic, and really became an American dream that a lot of people could end up, we're never going to hit it as long as Tiger Woods or have a putting stroke like Ben Crenshaw. But if you have some skill and determination and caring and go about doing things the right way, you can have success. Maybe not Tom Kite's success, but you can get it done. So to me, that's always been the trademark from you. Did that come from your parents, the persistence, the never say die?
Totally. There's no question about that. You know, my dad grew up in the Depression. His dad was a sharecropper, and so, you know, there was not a lot of money around, and you know, Dad became a you know, very successful person just because not just because he worked hard. Obviously, he was very smart and very talented, but he outworked a lot of people, and he gave that same work ethic to me. And fortunately, when growing up in Austin, Texas, as I was, there was a lot of competition around. So you know, that work ethic Dad gave me was supported by all these really good players. There were so many talented players around Austin, Texas, and probably the Austin Country Club had more single-digit handicap players than any club, and Austin had more single-digit handicap players, and it was all because of Harvey. You know, everybody that played golf took lessons from Harvey Phoenix, and so they got better. And if you didn't take lessons from Harvey Phoenix, you took lessons from somebody who had taken lessons from Harvey Phoenix. So, you know, he had a great influence on us. And so there were so many good players that if you didn't apply yourself, if you didn't work hard, if you didn't have talent, well, then you kind of got left in the wings. And so, wanting to be a pretty good player, it was just natural for me to want to jump on it and practice a lot.
A lot of people say Hogan hit more balls than anybody else. Many people say BJ Singh. Well, Hogan quit before you did. You haven't quit yet. BJ started after you did. I have you as the man who's hit the most golf balls of anyone in history, and you're still going at it. My money's on you as far as that's concerned. Where does that work, the work ethic, did that come from, like you said, your upbringing and the need to try and hit those shots, but it went an extra level? Why?
Well, David, I guess I would agree with you in just about everything, except for the connotation. So many people, sit there and they say he works hard, and they almost put it in a negative connotation. It's kind of like, well, he, might not have done anything except he really worked hard. But, if you have a 10 or 12-year-old kid go out to the golf course and they play golf all day long, their parents drop them at the golf course at 8 o'clock in the morning. And then when they pick them up at 6:30 or 7 at night, the kid doesn't want to go home to eat dinner. He wants to keep playing golf. Everybody would say, wow, that kid just loves to play golf. He just loves being out there. Well, I'm a 70-year-old kid. And, always through the years, that's the way I've always approached it. It's not work. It's enjoyment for me. Hitting golf balls is fun. Trying to become a better player is fun. It was not, it wasn't like I was being forced to do it. It was something that I wanted to do and something that I really enjoyed doing. So, I lasted, my career's lasted longer than Mr. Hogan's did. VJ's, 10 or 12 years younger than I am. Or more, I guess 15 years younger than I am. He may catch me when it's all said and done, but he's 15 years behind.
That's a long way behind. And whether it was Mr. Jones going from 9 green to 10 tee at Austin Country Club, or Mr. Nicklaus out playing golf against you in different kinds of tournaments, or Mr. Montgomery in 1992 at Pebble, they all saw that consistency and saw how the work had paid off, or the love of the game had paid off from your perspective. And I do love how, that care for the game and that just spark for the game, whether it's out on the golf course or out on the practice tee, has always been with you. I often see you as the last person on the practice tee because you love it. As the lights go going down, and it doesn't matter where you are in a tournament. Was it like that all the way, even the early days on tour, trying to juggle family, Christy, your wife, wonderful lady who supported you? How would the work ethic and the family ethic come together from all those passions?
Well, there's no question that I had the most supportive wife that anybody could ever have. There are a lot of great tour wives out there. Barbara Nicklaus is at the head of the list. Winnie Palmer was right up there. Shirley Littler was a terrific tour wife. Maria Floyd were wives that not only supported but encouraged their husbands to do well. Julie Crenshaw, a terrific tour wife. But none were better than Christy. And the story that probably epitomizes it the most was when I had just got on tour and been out there for just 2 or 3 years, and there was an article for one of the magazines where they interviewed Arnold Palmer, and he was asked to talk about some of the young players that he thought would really last a long time and would really have a mark on the game. And of course, Crenshaw was there, and Watson was there, and my name was on the list. And he talked about a number of things that I did, but one of the things was that he made reference to Christy, and he said that she would be one of the best tour wives ever, and that made her very proud. But she was so supportive, but she didn't want me wasting my time. And as long as I was on the practice tee, hitting golf balls and working at my game, or on the chipping green or on the putting green, working on my game, she was okay with me spending as much time as I wanted or needed. If on the other hand, I went to the practice tee and I just sat around and was shooting the ball with the guys and talking. You know, she didn't have a lot of tolerance for that. She was protective of her time when it was appropriate, for sure.
Did you ever do that? Because I never saw you hanging around. You always, if I'm coming up and asking you for an interview, you were always out there being efficient with your time, being efficient with your fitness, being efficient. To me, it always seemed like you'd hang around and chat if you weren't on the practice team. But when you got out there, you were focused.
Dave, Christy was, she was a wonderful person, but I didn't want to have the wrath of Christy down on me. If I was out there, you know, telling jokes and stories with all the people when I should be with her, you know, that was a price I didn't want to pay.
Billy Ray Brown tells a story about how, I guess in Dallas at one point, you stayed at a hotel right on the golf course. You could see the practice putting green, and he would say he's going down there to putt, and his wife sat up and looked down for him and saw him chatting, hit maybe 3 putts in 2 hours, came back up. Yeah, put a real workout in there. And she said, I saw you the time. Easy to do. I've never seen you do it, whether Christy was around or not. You got into good habits that way. How about fitness? Because still at 70, you're very fit.
Well, it's something that I got into, you know, fairly early on. Obviously, not being very big, I needed to be fairly fit, and so, you know, always took pride in you know, being out there on tour. When I was at the University of Texas, I didn't really pay attention to it. You know, I'd you know, stop at a donut shop on my way to class and then go have Mexican food for lunch and then barbecue for dinner. And you know, I was pretty out of shape and heavy. When I went out on tour, golly, that first year, I probably dropped 10 or 15 pounds. And you know, all of a sudden, I started finding out that I was, you know, better able to withstand the rigors of playing golf day after day after day, week after week after week, year after year. And so I became aware of that, and I started talking around to a number of players, and obviously Gary Player had a huge impact on that. And then in the early 80s was the first time that the fitness vans actually came out on the PGA Tour, and there were a number of people out there that really influenced me a lot. You know, the trainers, the first trainers that we had in the fitness trailer had a huge impact on me, and all of a sudden I really started working out, and it you know, obviously has paid dividends. You know, I've had very few injuries throughout my career, and you know, I guess with all the practicing that I've done, I've been fairly abusive of my body. So you know, you know, it's all good, and thank goodness the fitness allowed me to have a decent career for a long period of time.
You know, one thing I always loved about you out on the tour was it's the intelligence, whether it's seeing the fitness vans coming on and taking advantage of it, whether it's practicing with a purpose and making sure you're improving and all those things, or just off the cuff conversations where you're talking about more than just the loft of a 7-iron versus, you know, closing down an 8-iron, whatever it might end up being. Always kind of ahead of the game from a cerebral standpoint. If you take a look at what you've done in the game, there are all the accolades from wins from all over the world, 19 on the PGA Tour, to first to earn $6 million, $7 million, $8 million, $9 million. So the consistency, the week in, week out, was really crowned to show people what you were made of. In, like I said, the toughest of conditions in the most important tournament at the most important place. You can talk about Augusta National, where you had great success as well, but Pebble in 1992. Can you tell us a bit about that? Because it was a tremendous week at my favorite place in the game, and I'll buy exactly what you said in the intro. If you want to win a U.S. Open, if you want to win a tournament, it's going to be the U.S. Open. If you want to win it someplace, it's going to be at Pebble. Now you've got the pressure of trailing and difficult weather. How big a climb was that for you?
Well, that was an amazing week. You know, it was one of those weeks where when you start off, all the players are praising the setup of the USGA. Saying that Pebble Beach was set up better than any U.S. Open that they had seen in a long, long time. And generally, when players say that, what it means is that it's not a really tough U.S. Open. The golf course is a little soft and it's a little easy, and the rough isn't quite as severe as in some years. The players don't want to get beat up. And that's kind of natural. And so what we saw the first part of the week was exactly that. We had really tame weather, and the golf course was fairly soft, and there were some low scores. Gil Morgan's first player to ever get it to double digits under par, and he did it at Pebble Beach in 1992. And then all of a sudden the weather changed. A little bit on Friday afternoon, a lot on Saturday, and definitely on Sunday. The conditions got worse. The wind started picking up. The golf course started drying out, and all of a sudden those greens that were receptive on Thursday and Friday became almost impossible to hit. I think somebody, one of the USGA executives told me that the highest gust that they had on Sunday was 47 miles an hour. So you can just imagine playing golf on a golf course with some very high rough, the smallest greens at any major championship golf course. And all of a sudden those greens get as hard as concrete, and playing in 35 and 40 mile an hour winds, it's just an impossible day. But that was one of those days that physically I was very good, but emotionally and mentally was probably as good as I've ever been. And I was able to stay in the present tense better or as well as any point in my career.
And staying in the present tense at that point meant staying in the most difficult conditions with the winds blowing, like you mentioned, and taking care of business at the time, whether it was the chip in at number 7, which at that point you still have 11 difficult holes and all kinds of beach, all kinds of trouble ahead of you. How did you stay in the moment at that point during that difficult time? Did you know where you stood as far as the tournament was concerned?
David, it's kind of one of those things you learn and you practice, and it's just like the physical part. I mean, we work hard on our physical swing and our ability to play, and sometimes it's there and sometimes it's not. I mean, it's just the nature of the game. The same thing is true mentally. I had great instructors mentally. I mean, Harvey, with some of his techniques for teaching us to learn how to play under pressure and control our emotions. That was huge. Bob Rotella, golly, I mean, I started working with Doc, early on, back when people were just starting to be aware of sports psychologists, and Bob has had a tremendous influence on what I was thinking about and everything. But that day, it was just one of those things that if I ever started, having my mind race and run ahead or start thinking in the past tense or what was going to happen in the future, I caught it immediately. And it was like, holy smokes, come on, get back to thinking about it. And I distinctly remember a time walking up the 11th fairway where my mind, just for a second, it kind of started thinking about what could happen. But like I said, I just caught it immediately. And it's like, come on, Tom, think about what you're doing. And so I was able to stay in that present tense so well that day.
It's a hard time. It's a hard tournament to stay in the present tense. But I think that win, you didn't need any measure of respect. People knew what a great player you were at that point. But it really was, from my perspective, one of those moments in golf where you say, okay, the golf gods got it right this time. Tom Kite's not a guy you ever want to have, not having won a major. Could have been many more majors as well. But you had the respect of your peers from your play in Ryder Cup, from everything that you did as well. Let's talk Ryder Cup for a second, because the man who captained the team after you in Boston 2 years after you did. Ben Crenshaw was on the same team that you were in 1981 when my dad was the captain as well. And in that year, you had maybe the most epic takedown of all time in any match, because you went up against Sandy Lyle, who at the time Seve Ballesteros said, if you take all of the big five, Faldo, Langer, Woosnam, Seve, and Lyle, and had them play at their top every single week, then Lyle would have beaten them all every single tournament. He played his best in that Ryder Cup match against you. What was the result?
Well, you're right. We did have a great match, and Sandy is one of my best friends. I really enjoy him. He's a terrific guy, and I've had some great competitions with him through the years. But that was one of those days where you just, you shrug your shoulders and say, holy smokes, why can't I do that all the time? But Sandy was 8 under par through 17 holes and got 3 and 1. I shot 10 under par for 17 holes, and it's just one of those days where everything went right. If he made a par, I made birdie. If he made birdie, I made birdie. It's just so many great things going, and just a fun atmosphere for sure.
Well, let's flash forward to the captaincy 2 years before it came to Boston, but it was overseas, tough one against Seve Ballesteros. I mean, it was a really tough one. Now I'm going to ask you a question differently than maybe you get asked. You had the reigning PGA champion, Open champion, and Masters champion. The three of them, I'm not going to name names because Tiger, Davis, and Justin will all get mad at me, but the three of them played 13 matches and took home 2.5 points. How did you ever get the team to get even to double digits if you had that kind of – well, I'm not going to blame it all on those guys, but, I mean, that had to be a miracle form of captaining for you to even be close.
I mean, when you think about the caliber that those guys the high level that their game was at the time, it's just kind of hard to comprehend. But, those guys that you named were all really good friends and great players. And Davis and Justin in particular were guys that I had known and kind of mentored a little bit, and so they were really good friends, and they were trying so hard to play well for me, and I think probably they tried a little too hard.
Okay.
It was Tiger's first Ryder Cup, and as good a player as Tiger was back then, he was nowhere near as good as he would become even a year or two later. It was his first one, and even if you're the great Tiger Woods, there's going to be nerves and some excitement and things that you never encountered before. I think a lot of the fact that those three and not just them, some other players didn't play as well as we want, but that was we lost the Ryder Cup by 1 point, and it was an epic battle, and it was great to go against Seve. Seve was a tremendous captain and a tremendous player, and I enjoyed my opportunity against him.
Okay, but back to my question. How did you get the other guys to come up with 11 points? I mean, that was that was some captaining right there.
Well, fortunately, some of the other guys really played well. Some of the people that none of the players on a Ryder Cup team were unknown players, but the lesser names, the ones that had not won major championships, those guys really stepped up to the plate and had played very well. Scott Hope, Jeff Maggard, Lee Jansen, those guys played very, very well for me. So they kind of made up for some of the other guys.
One of the things that a captain can do, can't hit any shots, can't make the guys play better, but he can provide experiences. And my dad's 81 team, he loved the experiences you all had, the family nature and all that came together. And you in 97 provided some great experiences for your team, though it's on hostile territory and with Seve as the captain, you might not say so, it's going to feel even more hostile. But getting President Bush involved as well is a memory that most of those guys will have forever and ever. And now, especially after him being gone, one they would treasure, frankly, maybe more than another half point here or there. Maybe you disagree with them, but all of the things you brought to that 92 team, do they still regard you or still comment to you at how grateful they are about those things that you brought to them?
No question about it. Matter of fact, earlier today, I've got an email from Tabitha Furyk, and Jimmy is getting ready to turn 50 years, getting ready to go on the Champions Tour, and asked me to do a video. She's put together a video to, a lot of Jimmy's friends to be a part of, his 50th birthday celebration. And it's one of those things that, I'm 20 years older than Jimmy, and yet I've still got this great relationship with him. And the fact that she asked me to be a part of the video, I was quite touched with that.
Well, I think that comes from a little bit of the John Wayne thing that you have, which is you're going to take the heat yourself. You're going to take care of people, and you might not need to let everybody know that you're taking care of them, but they certainly appreciate it, especially in this difficult world of, media hype and people nailing other people with negative stories here and there. You stood tall, and like I said, even though you didn't hit a shot, you stuck your chin out there for the team that didn't quite beat Seve on his home turf. Like that's some kind of an embarrassment or something.
Let me tell another story that I think is really interesting, especially since you mentioned President Bush, because, as him being a recipient of this award, a story that came out of there that I haven't told very often to too many people, but, we had a terrible day on Saturday, and we were so far behind. It was terrible. In Valderrama, southern Spain, where they have perfect weather, we're getting rain every day, and it's being delayed, and we're finishing up late. And we just played terrible on Saturday. And turns out we were exactly the same number of points down that Ben's team was down in 2 years later. And when you're that far down after the first 4 matches, I mean, there's almost no chance of coming back and getting a victory. And we're finishing up late. It's it's dark because of the rain delays that we've had. And so I sent the team back to the team hotel, and now I've got to go address the media. And I'm going down to the media tent, and Julius Mason, who's the media director with the PGA of America, said, "Tom, is there anything I can do for you?" And I said, "Julius, I don't know what I'm going to go say to the team. I need to kick them. I need to kick them in the butt. If we're going to have a chance to play well, I'm going to have to get hard on them." And yet my team is so down.
Yeah.
I mean, so depressed right now. How do you kick you can't kick a dog when he's down. You want to praise them, and yet they don't need praise. They need to be kicked a little bit. And so I said, somehow I've got to get them fired up. And I said, the president is here. I need to see if I can get the president to come talk to my team and give them a little some encouragement, so that then I can come in after his encouragement and kick them a little. And so while I was talking to the media, Julius found out that President Bush was coming to a dinner at Valderrama that night, and Jaime Patino, the owner of Valderrama, was hosting it. And the King of Spain is coming there, and so then we go up, and the president has not arrived yet, but I'm waiting there at the hotel for him. And I'm talking to the Secret Service, and I'm telling them what I want to do, and they're going, yeah, this is great. You got to get the president. And so I kind of wait there in the lobby, and then President and Mrs. Bush come in, and the Secret Service ushers him over into this small little private room just to the side there before he went in. And I said, "Mr. President, I shouldn't be asking you this, but I really, really need your help. And, if you could somehow come talk to the team for just a few minutes before the dinner, I would really, really appreciate it. And he goes, "Oh, Tom, I'm supposed to be the keynote speaker at this dinner tonight, and Heine's really expected me to be there, and the King of Spain is here. Gosh, I just don't know whether I can do it." And Barbara, God bless her soul, she reaches over, puts her hand on his arm and says, "George, you need to do this."
Great.
So we jump in the cars. The president walks out. He doesn't even tell Jaime Patino that he's leaving. We walk out of the hotel. It's a short drive over to our hotel, and we're racing on the back roads with the Secret Service and everything, and walk in, and the president was just there for 5 or 6 minutes, and the story that he told, he said, "Boys, when I was out there watching it today, it kind of reminded me of when I jumped out of the airplane, when I parachuted out of the airplane." He said, I just saw you guys, and you guys looked like you were in a free fall, and it looked like you were going to crash. And, it was just such a tough day." And I said, but he said, "The cool thing is that I had a parachute, and you boys have tomorrow."
Wow.
Wow. And then, he was like, "Yeah." And then I can sit there and now come in behind him and say, "Guys, you were so tentative out there. You gotta play your game. You're the best players in the game. You can do it." And the next day, my team came roaring out. And at one point, we actually took the lead. We did exactly the same thing that Ben's team did 2 years later, except that we, right at the end, a couple of guys that had big leads, early in their round. Justin Leonard won the first 4 holes and ended up losing his match. So guys that had, they didn't quite get to the house, and we ended up coming up 1 point short. But, I really owe an awful lot to President Bush, and really owe an awful lot to Barbara. She was one of my favorite people.
Well, sounds like Ben Crenshaw owes a lot to you, because you taught, or your team taught, Justin Leonard how to keep it together. So he did on the 17th at Brookline. But in any case, you mentioned that's a great story. It tells everything you need to know about President Bush, and the good cop, bad cop with him and you is just magical, priceless. Yeah. Then you went out on PGA Tour champions. Not long after that, not long after having great finishes and more major championships on the PGA Tour, after having been the Ryder Cup captain, and great success on the PGA Tour champions. What did it mean to you to be playing over 50 against those guys and winning majors, having success, and having a great career, second career?
Well, it's like a mulligan. It really is. Our sport is so unique in that we can continue to play way past when athletes in other sports have long retired. It's the great nature of our game, and now that people are starting to take better care of themselves and pay attention to their diet, pay attention to their fitness, and working out on a regular basis, I think what's happening on the Champions Tour will continue to grow for a long time. I think a lot of the players that turn 50. Just because you turn 50 doesn't mean you stop wanting to compete. You still want to compete. You still want to play, and those competitive juices are still flowing. That's for sure. And I loved being able to continue my career and play on the Champions Tour. And I think a lot of people like Jim Furyk, who we just spoke about, I think they're going to have great runs out on the Champions Tour.
Well, maybe you continued your career and had a terrific second career on the Champions Tour, but also continued your life. You were a great father. Now you're a grandfather. You were a great husband. You're another new husband now as well. Tell us about what's going on with you currently, because your life seems as full as ever.
Well, it really is, Davey. And I'm very, very blessed. Losing Christy was the toughest thing that I've ever gone through in my life. Watching her battle cancer and do it with the style and grace that she did was something that was inspirational. And she was a great influence to me, and I hope that I helped her in her battle. The sad thing about losing her was that she hasn't had a chance. She didn't have a chance to meet our grandchildren. David's first was just barely, just a couple of months old when Christy had a chance to see her, and now I've got 4 grandkids, and so she never had a chance to meet them. But they are so much fun. They are terrific, and I feel very blessed. And of course, one of the bad things about this situation that we're in right now with the virus is that we're not able to travel. And all 3 of my kids live out of state, and so I try to make trips to go see them. And so with this stay in place and shelter in place, I'm not able to see my kids and my grandkids nearly as often as I want to. And that's the difficult thing about what we're all going through at this time. But those grandkids of mine, they are fun.
Well, I know Christy would have been a tremendous grandmother as well. And there were times, everybody out there supported you, but there were times when we could see you in special places, whether it be Pebble, whether it be Hualalai, where you might go off in a practice round on your own, or another time, and just to be by yourself, knowing that you had to get through it the Tom Kite way, power through it, feel your way through it, think your way through it. And there's a little delicate post-spouse loss. Finding love again is a difficult thing to do. And the way you did that so gracefully with the former Sandy Jones, now Sandy Kite, I thought was absolutely a testimony to grace in that kind of a situation. Tell us about that.
Well, you're right. I'm unbelievably blessed. To get one great wife is a true blessing. To get 2 is phenomenal. But Sandy was caddying out on the Champions Tour. She started 4 or 5 years prior to my turning 50. She was caddying for some of the players out there, and Buddy Allen and Bunky Henry and Gene Littler and Larry Nelson and guys like that prior to me getting out there. And then Mike Carrick, my longtime caddy, and I split up shortly after I got on the Champions Tour, mainly because he wanted to go back to the PGA Tour where the purses were a little bigger and he could a little more money. And so Sandy started caddying for me, and she basically became a really good friend of our family. She and Christy were really good friends, and she was easy to have, easy to get along with while we were out on the golf course. And then when Christy had started battling having her battle with cancer, Sandy was always supportive of everything that we were trying to do. And going through that time was one of the toughest times of my life. I mean, after she passed away, all of a sudden the house became, it just started closing in on me. I was just so depressed and so lonely. And, all of a sudden I'd say, Sandy, why don't we go out to dinner? You want to go out and grab something to eat? And all of a sudden, one thing led to another. We start dating, and now she's in my life. And so it's wonderful to, as I said, to have 2 great girls jump in your life and be blessed is very fortunate. Byron Nelson was such a role model for all of us in Texas for so many years. the way he handled everything and the way he performed and his whole life and was such an inspiration. And Byron had kind of a similar situation when Louise passed away, and it's kind of like, what am I going to do? How am I going to handle this and everything? And then all of a sudden he meets Peggy. Well, Louise was one of those phenomenal ladies. She was one of the nicest people you'd ever want to meet. And then how's he ever going to replace Louise? And he replaces it with Peggy, and Peggy's just, totally different, but in her own way, as good. And so, again, Byron Nelson was a tremendous role model for me.
I don't believe in coincidence. So I think whether you want to call it Christy and Louise, or whether you want to call it the man upstairs, somebody put two angels in your life and two angels in Byron's life. And one thing that Byron Nelson did is played his golf career so that he could go have a ranch. And that's kind of left his mark with the tournament and how it raised more than $100 million in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, the Salesmanship Club, and all the great things they do there. You leave your mark, with the coolest logo in the game from my perspective. I love it right there on your shirt. But it's your course design logo, the kite right there. You take that cerebral nature, that cerebral part of you that I talked about earlier on, and put it in your golf course designs and leave them there, these designs, great ones, for all across the country and throughout the world, for people to enjoy. How fulfilling is that for you to know that?
Oh, that's tremendously fulfilling. There's no question. To be able to take a raw piece of land and transform it into a golf course that people can use for many, many years is terrific. It's a lot of fun. I've really enjoyed it, and I've been fortunate. I've had the opportunity to design a number of golf courses that have been well received and have hosted PGA Tour events and amateur events, and so
international play.
Yeah, international events, exactly.
So well regarded, but that's not, again, the only thing you leave as far as your legacy is concerned, because I know one of the highlights of tonight is you being able to create an endowment that will also be a legacy that's left for others, and one that you, again, with that cerebral nature, have been able to tie your whole family together with. Could you tell us about it?
This scholarship that the Francis Ouimet Fund has put together is unbelievable. I don't know how many people have been impacted by the charitable aspect of this dinner and this program. It's terrific, and things, dinners like this and honoring the people, that's all nice, but what they're doing with the charitable aspect and helping these kids out is really what makes this thing so special. I feel very fortunate in my life, and that the people that have surrounded me have given me the opportunity to flourish and to have a very nice success rate. And so I'm hoping that by forming this Christy Kite Family Scholarship Fund, that we're able to help some other deserving young person to fulfill their dreams. Christy and my kids were so instrumental in my success, and they allowed me to chase my dreams, and hopefully this scholarship fund will allow some other young person to do exactly the same thing.
Well, Tom, congratulations on being the recipient of this year's Ouimet Award. You're incredibly gracious, and I know how everyone is excited for the establishment of the Christy Kite Family Scholarship and the many young people of the Ouimet Fund who will benefit from tonight's event.
Well, she deserved it. She was special. She raised a great family. She was a terrific wife, a terrific tour wife, as we said earlier. She was a great mom. She would have been a great grandmother. There's no question about that. But she really inspired a lot of people to do great things, and I'm really pleased that this scholarship is named after her.
Well, Tom, we had a tough lie here today. I always love when people get to know you better, whether it's in person or in this kind of a social distancing kind of a format. But just like behind that green at number 7 in 1992, you took that tough lie, turned it into a birdie, made things happen for all of us and all of you who are at home. Hopefully you enjoyed getting to know Tom Kite a little bit better. I always love chatting with my friend. All the best to the scholars, to everyone at home, and another thank you to those who are compelled to donate. It means so much to so many. Be safe, and thank you all for being with us.
Thank you, Dave.
Thank you, Dave.
Thank you so much to everybody at the Ouimet Fund for giving me the opportunity to be able to follow my dreams and become a nurse. I appreciate you all so much. Thank you.
I just want to say thank you so much to the Ouimet donors for all your generosity, as it has supported me to complete my undergraduate degree, as well as provided me with the opportunity to pursue grad school this fall, where I'll graduate with a master's in business management. Thank you so much.
The Francis Ouimet Scholarship Fund has allowed me to attend the school of my dreams and pursue a major that's been a passion of mine ever since a young age. On behalf of myself and my family, I would like to say thank you to the Ouimet donors for making all this possible.
I wanted to take this opportunity to thank the Ouimet Fund for the scholarship that they have given me. I'm here at Merrimack College, my dream school, and with scholarships through golf, it has made it possible for me to attend this school. I'm on the Women's Division I golf team here, and I've been really enjoying it. I want to thank the organization, and I look forward to opportunities in the future.
The Ouimet Foundation means a lot to me individually, as it's created a sense of financial stability, not only for me, but also for my older sister and my family as a whole. It's just impacted so many young adult lives in such a positive way that I can't say thank you enough.
I attend Boston College. I'm a part of the class of 2023. I major in biology and minor in global public health and the common good. And the generosity of the Ouimet Fund has allowed me to pursue internship and research opportunities I otherwise would not be able to.